What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 9 by 9 the best 81 square meters of volleyball content on the internet. My name is Everett Rob. I'm joined today, as always, by Mr. Rob St. Clair from Chicago. Rob, how are things going?
Terrific. Happy Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen. It is February 8th. It is time for a packed week of volleyball coverage. There was a lot that happened over the weekend. There's a lot happening this coming week, and we have a lot to dive into. I'm excited about it. Make sure you check us out at Volleyball Source on Instagram. Hop in the Discord. The link's in the description. And let us know in the live chat. I'm looking at the chat right now. If you got any questions throughout the show, anything you want us to cover, hit us up there. So, Everett, where should we start? Should we start in Italy? A lot went
Yeah, I
down in
think we
Italy.
should start with Italy women.
Sweet.
Because it was a pretty spicy weekend this weekend in Italy, and we're going to direct your gaze down to the bottom two matches there. And no, you are not seeing a typo. That is a second loss for Imico Conigliano, falling 3-1 to Monza. And with that loss, it also allowed Savini Del Bene Scandici with their 3-0 win to step into first place. So a lot of change this weekend in Super Lega Volley Femminili. But let's start with that first one, the big one, Conigliano falling to Monza 3-1. Agona was big in that one. She had 23 points. She showed up, but just no one else can put points on the board for that Conigliano team. No one else getting into the double digits.
Yeah, so I commentated this game. I had a big weekend of commentary. I had two awesome matches Saturday.
Getting the big primetime matches now. No more Ravenna. Let's go.
About time. Yeah, this one was great. Dana Retke made her Lega Volley Femminile debut, which was incredible for any American fans out there.
That was her debut.
She played against Vakifbank last week in Champions League. It was her Italian debut, and she was phenomenal. We'll get to that in a second.
Damn.
But
okay.
Yeah, Paola Egonu was, like, just looking at the stats, 28 points. The next highest on the team was Raffaella Foley with 7. That's
it.
It's
a tough spot. Yeah.
That's it. That's the end of the discussion about Conigliano right there. You cannot win games against a team of Monza's caliber, even if you have the best player in the world. If Miriam Silla puts up 5 points on negative efficiency, Vuchkova in the middle, 6 for 13. You should be able to score better than that in the middle. Foley 7, okay, sure, but 0% efficiency. Plummer really bad. Like they brought Courtney off the bench. She scored 0 points with 2 errors. Like you've got to have something else there somewhere if you're Conigliano, especially as Monza continues to get better.
Well, to be honest, I'm going to bring this back to our conversation last week of the top 10, where you put Joanna Voloj in there. And I mean, this is where I'm going to have to, it's like, where does this fall? Because it's not like they don't have other players around Paola Egonu. This isn't the like LeBron in the Cavs in back in the 2010s when he first started his league. Like Silla, Plummer. Like Plummer is supposed to be like one of the next superstars of the USA. She's out there putting like 6 points up on the board, and her efficiency is like under 10%. So something really needs to change for Conigliano. And I mean, I'm guessing it might, considering that it's rumored that Isabella Hawk has officially signed for Conigliano for next year. So furthering more that Egonu is going to be making that jump to Turkey. But right now, she needs some support, because it's no longer a guarantee for me that they're going to win this championship like it was maybe a month or so ago.
That's a great point. It is no longer a guarantee, not even close to a guarantee they're going to win the league anymore. But Conigliano passed the ball like garbage in this game. That was a serious factor. They were chucking a lot of balls up to Egonu out of necessity. They really couldn't run much because they just had an uncharacteristically bad day controlling the ball. Combine that with Monza, who was really good defensively. They had 9 blocks and I thought dug the ball really well, which of course, for some reason in volleyball, we can't stat digs, but I thought they played really good defense. So they had the right game plan. They wanted to make Egonu be the sole point scorer, because everyone knows you can't really stop her. So I actually am okay with them of the strategy of stop literally everybody else and make her out talent you single-handedly compared to the rest of Monza, all of whom were really good. So moving on to Monza stats, which were really outstanding. Magdalena Stesiak, almost 50% efficiency, 23 points, great performance. Alessia Gennari, not quite as good. They didn't need her. That was okay. Anna Danesi, excellent. Anna Daviskiba was really good. I was kind of surprised that she got the start over Katarina Lazovic, but she was good. And most importantly, Dana Retke, 10 for 15,
Massive.
only one error, 3 blocks, and 2 aces.
Go ahead.
That's insane. And let me tell you, I watched Monza play Vakifbank on Thursday, and Retke got the start there. And as a blocker, she looked lost. She was getting played with laterally. She was not fast enough for the level of the game. And in one match, in half a week of practice, and against one of the best teams in all of Europe, she transformed her read blocking and game sense and lateral quickness, and really it looked like night and day for her in the blocking phase. And to be able to make that adjustment that fast since coming overseas and since just starting to see the court was incredibly impressive to me. And it should be no surprise to anyone that she's an elite attacker, especially as her chemistry with Alessia Oro, who's really good at setting middle, continues to develop. But she was awesome on the slide. She was banging balls, sharp cross on the right side to 10 feet, no problem, which was amazing. 2 aces was great, but the blocking, the quick improvement in her middle blocking ability was really the thing that jumped off the page to me. I thought she was awesome. Such a good, positive sign for Monza in that pickup and for the U.S. women. We talked about it when she came overseas. Dana Retke should absolutely be a foundation of the women's national team moving forward. That 3 middle blocker trio, Haley Washington, Dana Retke, and Chiako Bogu, yikes! Look out.
That's disgusting. But you're not wrong. And I mean, she did it all around too. She went two aces with 2 errors, so that's not bad either. But that's 3 blocks, massive day. And I think it's really just cementing the fact that the NCAA is the best breeding ground for women's volleyball there is, right? The fact that she's able to step off the court, just a few months ago, she was in Wisconsin and, getting ready for a Final Four run. And now she's in Italy playing amongst the best and beating them. So, I mean, hats off to her. Can't wait to see what's next coming from Dana Retke.
Yeah, agreed. So before we move off of this match and on to the other big one, which was Scandici beating Busto Arsizio, there's a clip I want to show you guys because this was a bright spot for Egonu and Caneliano despite the loss, but this was absolutely nuts. Check this out.
But another free ball.
YouTube, please don't demonetize us.
Egonu again. What a ridiculous angle.
It's just silly
with that. Oh my goodness, that's right on the sideline, a meter off the net. That's insane. No way. I can't believe that angle. And Stasiak just looking at it oh yeah, that was in. There's nothing you can do to stop that. That was incredible.
We have to watch it.
Just one more time.
We gotta watch it again. That was insane.
Egonu again. What a ridiculous angle. Are you serious with that?
Goodness gracious, that's absolutely
that's right
filthy.
On the sideline.
It's a shame that where's Titans volleyball and volleyball world and all of our big media arms out there. Why aren't we talking about this? Why isn't this plastered on anything? If this was the NBA, it would have been on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok before the end of the quarter. But yeah.
Agreed, dude. I was so mad that it seemed like Volleyball World literally took the entire weekend off of social media because they literally they posted nothing for Saturday and Sunday, and then Monday morning European time they started being active again. And in their post about Lega Volley Femminile highlights from the weekend, there was a very pedestrian Stasiak kill from this match, and that was it. That might be the greatest cross court shot I've ever seen.
That's better than Kliuka's last year.
It's almost better than Kliuka's.
I'm rating this one higher for sure. I'm rating this one higher for sure. Dude, I think that needs to be an Instagram poll.
I was commentating it in real life, and I barely even saw the ball because it was so ridiculous. I didn't understand what I was looking at. So I was worried that I was going to be clueless and that the commentary would do the clip justice. I think it ended up being pretty good, but that shot was you're right. Absolutely should have lit the entire internet on fire. I don't understand why it didn't.
Yeah, it should have been broken down multiple times with multiple angles in slow-mo. Nope, nothing. Nope. Quick little, yeah. Anyways, yeah, let's move on to the next one. As we mentioned, Scandici pulling in to first place in the Lega Volley Femminile with a massive 3-0 win over Busto Arsizio. And Busto just not on their game. Probably one of the worst games we've seen all season from Alexa Gray, to be perfectly honest. And I mean, hey, she can't be dropping the 29 points on every occasion, right?
Yeah, I remember the stat line you brought up on last week's show where she was like 70% efficient and was unbelievable. This was not quite as good, not like miserable. 13 for 34 with 6 errors is certainly not great.
No.
Mingardi, pretty good, 17 for 35 with only 2 errors. That's pretty good, but I think the credit goes to Scandici here. They were super balanced. They were unbelievable in the middle. Louisa Littman didn't even have to do that much. She only played one set. Like,
No, I mean the point I want to talk about is the young Katerina Antropova. Remember when we were talking about Fedoruseva a few weeks ago, and I said that she didn't even play for a national team? Is because I was mixing
thinking,
up with this girl who, for all intents and purposes, for the past few years has grown up in Italy, but she's technically Russian, and so the two federations are fighting over her. But man. Katerina Antropova coming in 14 for 26 and 24 points
and 0 errors.
Eight aces. 8 aces. And I mean, she kind of lit up Alexa Gray, which it doesn't feel the best for me. Alexa Gray got 5 errors on service, but still 8 aces for Katerina Antropova. Like, they didn't even need Littman. Right. So that's
and Pietrini didn't play. She didn't even see the court like that. That's ridiculous. 8 aces to 2 errors plus like an errorless offensive performance and 2 blocks. Like there's a good reason why those two federations are fighting over the Katerina Antropova's ability to play for their national teams. That's almost as ridiculous of a stat line as the Rok Mozic one, as we'll look at in a minute. But like 8 aces in 3 sets, like, get out of here.
Like, why isn't like she's 18 years old, like she's so young. Why isn't this blasted on every media? Okay, we're not going to get into it. You can tell like I have something boiling under my skin right now.
There's a theme. There's a theme going on.
There's a theme to today's show for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking up how old she is. 2003. That's absurd. She's 18. She turns 19 in like a month. God, that's ridiculous. Yeah, the lack of coverage of this girl. Nobody knows who she is because she doesn't play for the national team. She's apparently not worthy of any coverage. But that is as great of a stat line as you will see in all of volleyball anywhere at any level this entire year. 14 for 26 with 8 aces. Get real.
And then once again, that was only done in like 2.5 sets because she didn't start. Right, she came off the bench in the first.
Right.
So I mean, hey, like, she's obviously like
believable.
She's obviously got something going. So I mean, it makes sense that both of these countries are going after her. But it looks like I bet she's going to end up to be Italian.
Yeah, it does look that way. So looking at the standings, after all that, it shakes out. You can see the top of the standings, Monza and Scandici tied at 40 points. But Scandici's played one more match than Monza has. Conegliano's still right there, 3 points behind, and they've played 2 less matches than Scandici has. And then after that, Busto with 17 matches played and only 35 points. So those 3, and Novara,
you can't keep Novara out, especially with the roster that they have. They've
only played 13 matches. They had more of a COVID. They had more of a COVID break than anybody. They even had one canceled this past week. So they have a ton of catching up to do. And we'll talk about Novara in a minute because there's a lot of drama surrounding them in Champions League. But the top of the Lega Volley Femminile standings are nuts. And coming into the year, everybody was thinking, oh, this is clearly Conegliano's league to lose because nobody foresaw their mortality, like to the degree that we've seen the last couple of weeks. But this is a dope league, man. And the bottom too, I was talking about last week. Oh, I still totally agree with that. But like I was talking about last week, the bottom 6 as well, like that's moving all over the place. Like you've got like ninth place with 15 points, 13th and 14th with 10, like 5 points separating 6 teams to try and not get relegated in 2 spots. Like this league's super dope. The drama is totally there, and if you're not watching, you're definitely missing out.
Yeah, definitely check it out over on Volleyball World TV because, like you said, it's so much fun that last year, like we all knew Conegliano was going to take it. They were just in that mode of a team of destiny, right? Winning Champions League and winning the Scudetto. But then this year, I mean, it seems to me like I bet you this is very much going to be like after the Bulls went on that crazy, season. The next year they kind of like let off loose. Same thing with the Golden State Warriors. Like once you go on a run like that, you don't want to go on it again, right? Like you don't want that pressure of having to be the best team ever. Right, like you don't want that pressure of having to win like the most games ever again. So I can see you kind of taking a game here off off here and there, right? So I think that's kind of what we're seeing with Canigliano, and I'd still expected to see them at the top of the league at the end of the year. But this just makes playoffs because whoever they're going to be playing in the semifinals onward is going to be awesome.
Unbelievable. Yeah, and you do not want to finish in fourth. Fifth or fourth.
That 4-5 game is going to be
enormous.
That 4-5 series is going to be massive, and then they're going to have to go play probably Canigliano in the next round. Like,
yeah. So a lot to look forward to there. So looking at the Italian men's results from the weekend, couple bangers for sure. You see those 2 5-setters jump off the page to you right away. You want to start with Trentino Modena because that was absolutely electric.
Yeah, absolutely. Start with Trentino Modena, and I mean, I actually didn't have the benefit of neither of us. I don't think either of us watched this game. We
live. I was commentating the other 5-setter.
So I watched the 5th set on my phone, in a parking lot, and I thought that was pretty electric. But I mean, for all intents and purposes, just by looking at the stat sheet, you need to give more balls to Micheletto. Like, but every game as this, and just watching the way like he ripped an ace to bring them within one, after 10 in the 5th set.
Yeah, they were down 12-6. Trentino was down to Modena 12-6 in the 5th, and Micheletto brought them back to 15-13. Like, they went on a 7-2 run. They still lose because they dug himself a hole, but similar to like his Eurovolley heroics in the 5th set there with his serving. Like, the kid's so nasty, and he was 3rd on the team in attempts in this match. So Kaziski 11 for 32, 5 errors, not great. Lavia 14 for 32, 6 errors, okay, not great. But Micheletto 15 for 26 with 1 error, well over 50% efficiency. You've got to get that kid the ball more. He's by far the best out of system scorer on the team. And if you're going to play this 3 outside hitter thing,
team in the world.
One of the very best in the world. Yeah, he's approaching Maxim Mikhailov, Wilfredo Leon's ability to score points out of system, and he's like with the 3 outside hitter thing for Trentino. You don't have a true opposite that is going to be your garbage ball guy. Like, when you have to throw a ball up against a triple block and expect him to score, you don't have that, which is why the imbalance in attempts, you sometimes see it, like right here with Kaziski and Lavia, both with more attempts than Micheletto. But if you're Spertoli, you got to feel that a little bit more about which of your guys there on the wings is able to score you points.
I think this
15 for 26. Come on.
Yeah, I think this fully falls on Spertoli, right? Especially like your team got blocked 10 times, four errors. Like the numbers just aren't great for Spertoli on this one. And with a guy like Micheletto, you got to feed him the ball. And yeah, you
rushing in only 5 attempts and 5 sets.
Absolutely, like that's just not normal Trentino numbers. And It seemed like Modena was just able to turn it on when they needed to. And it just seems like this team has ADHD. I swear to God, right? Because this team is only good in pressure situations. They only win when they really have to. They couldn't get up for a CEV Cup, either CE Cup match against Tools. They couldn't get up for Italian Cup matches, right? Like, they had a terrible start to the season. But when it comes, like, when it's all said and done, when this team is under pressure, they start to perform. I mean, just look at their numbers on this one.
Their numbers were pretty sick.
28 for Namir, 21 for Engapeth. He went 21 for 37. Only had 4 errors offensively on the day. Like, just
Namir 7 aces. Like 7 aces to 4 errors for Namir. Like, finally one of the great Namir serving days that Modena's been looking for. And you got to remember here,
this is his first one of the season, really.
Pretty much. This game was, well, other than maybe the last time these two teams played, because last time they played, it was in Modena, and Modena smacked them down 3-0. And Trentino was missing a couple of guys, but this time in Trento, Trentino goes up 2-0. 2-0 and get reverse swept on the road by one of their longtime rivals. That's just not a good look. Julian Zenger, only 9% perfect passes, 39% positive. That's not acceptable. Like, they ended up just getting served off the floor when all the Modena pieces got hot at the right time, which that roster, when they're built the way that they are, will certainly catch fire sometimes. But I think Trentino should not feel good at all about blowing this match a little bit. I think that they have this in the bag.
Well, I mean, I think Trentino is starting to show some cracks, and I think at the beginning heading into the season, we thought this was a rebuilding year, right? We couldn't have imagined they'd get to where they are now, right? And they had such a great start to the season, kind of came onto the scene and really like showed everyone up. But I think now we're starting to see that they're missing the number of X factor players that the other top teams have. They're missing the Engapeth and the Namir. And I mean, Daniele Lavia is not that guy. He's not that player and probably never will be. Matej Kabinski used to be that player.
Yeah, once upon a time.
He's no longer that guy. And apparently, we can clearly see that going 11 for 32 today or this past weekend. So, and I think Micheletto can be that guy and is that guy, but he's really the only one. So Trentino is really a team that benefits off their system and the way they play together and how they work together. But at the end of the day, system only works so far when Namir is ripping 7 aces from the baseline, and you got Daddy Stankovic going 8 for 9 with 5 blocks. Right at the end of the day, they just can't play at that level with Modena when Modena is executing in late season form.
Yeah, that's a great summary for Trentino's current situation. They are a great system team. They run a very unique system, but when it comes to trying to face off or fend off world-class firepower, especially from the service line, they definitely have some weaknesses there because they are not the best passing team, nor are they the best out-of-system scoring team. And you get Namir on a day when he goes 7 aces, 4 errors, and you're probably gonna lose in that case if your libero can't handle that. So honestly, this is all kind of a compliment to Trentino because Everett's right. We did think that this was going to be a rebuilding year for them until they came on to such a pleasant surprise early in the year. So I still have very high expectations for them. But when it comes to a 5-match series in the playoffs against a Lube, a Modena, or a Perugia in the semifinals, I don't know if I see them advancing past that point.
They're a top 4 team for sure, but I don't think they're a top 3 team. Moving on to the next big game, the next 3-setter or 5-setter of this one. If this one you commentated, it has to be one of the bangers of the year, right? And
it was one of the bangers of the year. So that was Verona hosting Milano. So set scores for this. Verona wins 3-2. They lose the first 25-17, so beat down there. They respond and beat Milano in the second 25-15, beat down there. Milano pulls away at the end of the third, 25-19. Verona wins a tight fourth, 25-23. And then the 5th set, 23-21.
It was a marathon. It was an
2-hour, 45-minute marathon. By far the longest match I've ever done. One of the longest matches I've ever seen. 23-21 in the 5th was absolutely nuts. Well, I have the match point clip from Rok Mozic that we'll show you in a second. But we have to look at this stat line. Rok Mozic, 20 for 32 attacking, only 2 errors. So about 60% efficiency there. 2 aces to only 3 service errors, 4 stuff blocks, and was his team's leading passer, second in attempts, and best by far in positive percentage and perfect percentage. And the ace to win the match at 22-21. And this kid is 26 points on sky high serving and passing efficiency, leading the match in blocking, and 2 aces. That's filthy. It's downright insane. And he was just so good the entire match. It was shout outs to Dan from the 5-1 Volleyball podcast. Put us on to Rok Mozic.
He's been talking. I feel like he's been talking about Rok Mozic for as long as I've been alive. It doesn't make sense. It feels like for so long he was telling us about it.
Yeah, Dan has a supernatural ability for spotting prospects. So that was definitely the first place I ever heard about who Rok Mozic was, and then we saw him for Slovenia and VNL. Whoa, this kid's nasty in hitting lines, but can he actually play? Then he puts up a stat line like this. He's already the league leader in scoring in Italy for a Verona team that was bad, and now is playing like this against a Milano team that's been white hot and puts up that stat line. Get out of here. This kid is is proving Dan right and then some about how high level of a prospect he is.
It's honestly, it's crazy to watch him. Like the way he plays right now. It's
like it's fearless. It's so confident, so fearless. It's like he behaves like such a superstar already. And I had so much fun watching him commentating this match because he would stuff block Jean Patry one-on-one, then land and start conducting the crowd like they're an orchestra. And it was so hyped. The kid's just such a showman, and he's got all the talent to back it up. He has so much confidence, and teams have been serving him ruthlessly throughout this year. They've been targeting him so hard on serving. And sometimes it's been a weakness for him, at least just to try and make him work harder and transitioning from pass to attack. But here, 70% positive passing, 57% perfect passing. Those are like elite level libero numbers. And then he goes 20 for 32 attacking. Like, that's insane for a 20-year-old.
And once again, this is an all-time performance, right? And we're talking about a 20-year-old who is like, he's been doing this every weekend. He leads the league in scoring. He has 368 points. Leon in second only has 329. I'll bet he has played almost 10 more sets because Verona loves to go to 5, right?
They do.
Perugia is just, wiping teams in 3. So he's second in the league in points per set at 5.18. Right, like he has been an absolute monster, and who's talking about him in the volleyball world other than us?
Not nearly enough people. So before we'll talk a little bit more about Verona as a team because they're improving. We'll talk about Milano in a second, but I want to show you the clip of match point because it was absolutely electric. So check this out.
Rok Muzic with an opportunity to be the hero. And he's done it! Oh my goodness, okay, Rok Muzic!
Let's be honest, you just wanted to put that on because you had the perfect call right before it.
And is the hero for Verona
right
in the
before.
fifth.
Hey man,
unbelievable with an ace serve. And maybe the most dramatic match of the entire Super League season. Verona fights off so many match points. They force it so deep into the fifth. And finally, the young Slovenian superstar who leads the league in scoring, no point he's scored in the entire season has been more important than that one right there.
I mean, how good is that?
The call was very good. Is that what you wanted to hear? The call was fantastic.
Yeah, the call was great. Thank you. I felt very good about the call, but like that's
the rip as well. The rip as well.
God, the serve is so good. That's I think the only passing error Yuki Ishikawa made the entire match. He was really good, which is a segue to talk about how good Milano really was. I thought they were awesome, with the exception of Jean Patry, who was not very good, ended up getting benched for Yuri Romano, who was very good. Bartolomei Chinese, 14 for 22, no errors. That's disgusting. Thomas Jeschke, 21 for 34. With only 3 errors. That's well over 50% efficiency. That's incredible. Matteo Piano, 7 for 9, no errors. Yuki Ishikawa, not bad, 13 for 27, 16 points. Like, this Milano team played well. They really did. They played good volleyball with other than Poro's kind of inability to keep Patry in the game. And then Romano came in off the bench and played well. And then, unfortunately, in extra points in the fifth, there was a ball that went right in between Poro's hands. Like,
I saw that one. That one, I felt for him. That's happened to me before in a fifth set.
Sure.
And
that happens.
That's that. I felt for him. But you know what? Okay, here's a conspiracy theory. So Poro and Romano are 2 teammates from that World Championship team, the U21 World Championship team.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Poro likes setting Romano better and purposely undersets Patry?
I don't think there's any purposefulness going on there. That's a little bit too.
But hey, there's that instant chemistry for Poro and Romano whenever Romano steps onto the court.
That's
right?
true. It's a comfort level for a setter who we've been talking about in the last couple of weeks. After Milano beat Lube in that cup quarterfinal, and we're like, how did this happen? And Poro played the match of his life. He's still a young kid, and there's still a comfort level when he has a guy that he really trusts and knows how to step on the court off the bench. Like, Romano went 9 for 14 with 2 aces, like that, and no errors. Like, that's awesome. So it's nice for Milano to be able to have that. Now, Jean Patry is a class above Romano for sure in terms of international opposites, but that doesn't matter
how long though.
doesn't matter if Porro can't set him. So I don't know about that.
That's my question: is how long is Patry ahead above Romano? Because like we saw Romano go off in a European Championship final.
Yes,
this
he
year,
did.
right? And I think like he just went off for at the World Championships as well. Like let's be honest, Micheletto was the guy on that team. But the fact that you got two lefties on that team is side note also nasty. Like that's really disgusting. The fact that Italy is going to have that moving forward, and Gianelli dishing that ball. Like I think we're about to step into a golden age of Italian volleyball. But I mean, we've got 20-year-old Rok Mozic out there putting up numbers. So like if Patry is a big contract for Milano, and you know what, he's having a pretty decent season. He's missed a couple of games, only got 206 points. But you know what? Like, where does the benefit to having Patry over Romano show up, and how long does that last? Because like I'm guaranteeing you can pay Romano, 21-year-old a lot less than you can pay Olympic champion Patry.
Great point. Yeah, I think Yuri Romano's stock is rising. I think he's a little erratic. He's a little. He's kind of like Maciej Mujai to me, but he makes better hand contact.
Do not be that slanderous.
Much better.
Romano's already way better than Maciej Mujai.
To me, they're like the way they like configure their body in the air is kind of similar. They look visibly similar to me. I don't love Romano's arm swing, but he makes a significantly better hand contact than Mujai ever did, and therefore he can actually hit the ball in bounds. So that really helps. He's also way better at the service line than Mujai ever has been in his career. I like Yuri Romano. I think he's a good player. Just like visibly in the area, like has this weird, goofy left-handed thing where he reaches over his head a little bit that reminded me.
I think visibly. That's just a lefty thing.
Micheletto does not do that. Micheletto has a better arm than any other lefty on the planet, and it's not even close.
I mean, to be quite honest, like Lee Micheletto, like there was one ball, it was an out-of-system ball that he pinned late in that fifth set, and I'm pretty sure it was dug up. But still, like the height at which he's contacting that ball, and because he's the lefty coming in on that left side, he's just able to hit an angle that really no one else is. And I mean, he got dug, but it was such a big swing. I was like, whoa, like that was massive.
I agree. It's obviously his size and his athleticism, but the caliber of his arm and his arm mechanics are better than any other lefty in the world too, in my opinion. I think he's on another level, but Yuri Romano, rising stock for sure. I think you got a point there. Yeah. So I want to talk about Verona a little bit before we move on, because they have struggled this year. They're obviously like towards the bottom of the standings. This win actually put them into playoff position, believe it or not. They're in 8th, which is very interesting.
Huge.
But and now Radostin Stoichev is still a clown in my opinion. He was doing some just ridiculously goofy antics in this match to call these stupid Hail Mary challenges and timeouts and getting yellow carded, and just he was a big reason why this match took so ridiculously long. But to his credit, he has taken what this Verona team has on their roster and he has maximized it, because in the beginning of the year they had Luca Spirito setting and Asparu Asparuhov, the Bulgarian, on the left, and they had the Italian setter so they could have a forehand outside. First of all, Asparuhov is not a very good player. Every time he goes to the bench, for any of Verona's backup outsides, they get better. So I don't understand why like a young Italian kid like Giulio Magalini doesn't just start. But he's now given the keys to the offense to Rafael de Oliveira, who's 42, Brazilian legend, of course, who everybody should know and love by now. But he is awesome, and his play has been a big reason why Verona's been so good. And then there's a kid named Andrea Zanotti who plays middle for Verona. He's kind of small. He's like 196, 198 or so, which is about like 6'5", but he's crazy springy. And also he's Italian. So like him, and they now have 2 Italian middles that can play. Whereas before they didn't. They had like a deep backup French middle playing before. So they've developed a couple players even within the season to now have a much better lineup now than they had when they started the season. And while Rok Mozic has been the one huge constant, I also want to shout out Anton Chafarena, who's their backup opposite.
That was what I was going to say too.
He came off the bench and was infinitely better than Mads Jensen was, so he might deserve some more playing time as well.
15 for 21, 71 hitting percentage, right? And only 2 errors on that as well. So 15 points in a few like 2.5 sets of play is big. And you know what? If he starts rolling, also thank you, because reading his name now, I would have never have guessed that his name is Verona. So thank you for looking into that pronunciation for me. But this, to be honest, there's two things that I want to say here about Verona, and then we need to move on, because this is gonna be a long show. This is gonna be a long show. There's so much good stuff going on. But if Verona can put on even like just 80% of what he did in those 2.5 sets that he did this past weekend, then that might be the end of Mads Jensen in Superliga.
I agree, and I think it's time. I think Stoichkov will probably continue to start like Asparuhoff and Jensen, and then their leashes will get shorter and shorter as the matches go on, and they probably should. I think Verona is the better player. I think he's more reliable. His arm is definitely better. He's much more dynamic, and I like his game a lot.
He's got an attitude on the court. Like,
I like him.
Fun to watch him.
I think he's like 20. He's like 24 and Albanian, so he's young and from like a bad national team, like a very insignificant national team.
Love it. But it's a junior Rich Slickley. Love it.
Yeah, I like him. I thought his game was good. So that's about it for Verona versus Milano. Was like
one more thing. I think in my books the playoffs are closed out. Like I don't see Padova, I don't see Cisterna, I don't see Toronto, I don't see any of those teams jumping ahead of Verona anymore.
Okay, so Toronto's behind them by only 1 point. Padova's behind them by 3 points, but they've played 2 less matches. And for me, that's going to depend on if Padova can get back to looking like they did before they had a big-time COVID layoff. Like I think it was either last week or the week before, when we were talking about like Mattia Botola had a horrible match. And Padova's still super volatile. I don't trust them, but I think their ceiling
Does Padova have a Rock Mozic?
No, they don't. They don't.
Case in point.
But their ceiling is higher, than Verona's, but they're much more volatile. They are way too risky and aggressive in a lot of situations, and sometimes if you get them in a bad match, they'll get hour in a shower like on a regular basis, when Verona kind of just won't do that. So I like Verona, and I do hope they make the playoffs, because I want to see more Rok Mozic in big matches. The kid's just so sick. I love him.
Yeah, you're not wrong. All right. Speaking of hours and showers, you like that segue? Eh?
That was a great segue.
Can we roll the clip from last week?
Yes.
I'm sullying myself here, and I mean, if you follow me on Instagram or even here on YouTube, I put it up as a short. Let's just run it. You guys run it.
I feel bad about being kind of mean to you in this clip, but
I love it. I
was right, as you'll see in a second.
I put myself out there.
And this is a clip from last week's show. Check this out. We beat Ravena head to head. Nobody cares, but Vibo now is not as slam dunk of a relegation as they were before, and I do not want to talk about either of those two teams anymore for a single second. So
can I just want to look. Yeah, no, nothing good in this. No. Actually, Yuji Nishida, not bad.
Who cares?
20 Ravena. 26 for 43.
He played against Ravena.
26 for 43.
I don't care. He played against Ravena. And like there are people online talking about this match, and I wanted to punch them all in the face. Why would you waste your time?
Maybe. Hey,
nope.
Maybe that Yuji magic is coming back.
No, stop talking right now. They played Ravena, and
I tried. Hey, I'm trying to turn a new leaf in 2022. I'm trying to be a Yuji Nishida stan.
Well, I'm not, and I will shut that down immediately. If he plays well against a team that isn't Ravena, then talk to me. Ouch.
Yeah.
Ouch.
So you were right. He played against a team that wasn't Ravena and was absolutely brutal. 4 points, minus 125 efficiency, 3 for 16. Got subbed out. The game was over in an hour and in 10 minutes. So it's pretty like let's call it an hour and shower. Those things are only supposed to happen in high school ball when you have one team full of and the other team is just full of scrubs who are under 5'10". But here we had it in Superliga against a team that at the beginning of the season was touted to be one of the top 5 teams. So maybe not top 5, but definitely a playoff team here. And embarrassing on my part. But what really grinds my gears here about all of this is the volleyball media's response to this match. And And so this was right after the match. And you see here the only channels that are allowed to post volleyball stuff, right? They're allowed to use Volleyball World's content, are here talking about Ivan Zaitsev versus Yuji Nishida. You know, like, thank God, what is it? Volleyball Kings did it against Lucarelli, because Zaitsev and Nishida had a combined 9 points, like 9 points in the match, and we're gonna put them like the LeBron James out here putting up points. Like, how many fantastic like season best performances did we see this past week on both the men's and women's side? Like, how much big things happen in Italian volleyball, and we're out here talking about Nishida, who was a minus 125 efficiency, and Ivan Zaitsev, who scored 5 points in a match where his team really didn't need him. Like, what are we doing here? Like, the volleyball media is absolutely terrible. No one cares about the sport. No one is out here to make it better. They're just here for the dollars. And like, I remember I've spoken to people from the FIVB, from Volleyball World, and they love the fact. They think the fact that they have a partnership with Titans Volleyball is amazing. And it's probably just some kid in Russia, and that, like, Titans is a Russian company, and they do multiple different sports. It's some kid in his bedroom in Russia just editing highlights with no regard and being like, oh, Nishida's the star on this team. Like, he has like the pamphlet with all the teams in it. He put a star, in Sharpie beside Nishida and a star beside Zaitsev. And like, that's what we make it. It's just another terrible week by volleyball media, not talking about what's going on and putting it on for players who are insignificant.
Completely insignificant. Yeah, yep. Everett hit the nail right on the head. I really don't have all that much more to add to that, but other than to reiterate some of the performances that we did see this weekend that are not being talked about at all. That Rook Mozic stat line was really one of the great performances in a domestic volleyball match I've seen maybe ever. And he's 20 years old. He went 20 for 32 with 2 aces and 4 blocks and 70% passing positive. Like, get out of here. That's a match-winning ace at 23-21 in the 5th. Why are we not talking about that? Why are there not highlight videos being made about that? Why are there not highlight videos being made about Paula Egonu ripping sharp cross to 2 feet off the net? Why are there not highlight videos being made about young Dana Retke, a young, like, an up-and-coming absolute superstar, going, like, having one of the great
Antropova, like,
yes, go with
the list goes on and on.
Like, all the things that we talk about on this show. Why are those things that are recognized and appreciated by actual volleyball fans not making their way up to the top levels of volleyball media? It just doesn't make sense. The disconnect is so vast that you would think, Everett, with how much we talk about it on this show every week about how disconnected Volleyball World is from reality in terms of digital media, you would think that some things like this make their way up to them because there are tremendous performances happening on their platform. It's on their platform. It's on the streaming service that they bought the rights to this year. And they're missing out on the things that happened in Italy, men's and women's, that actually matter. And here we are putting up highlights about Ivan Zaitsev and Yuji Nishida, who are both completely insignificant on the weekend. Unbelievable.
And I'm not saying Nishida is insignificant overall. I think he's an all-star player. I think he's a superstar player. But he's not the only player that exists, right? Like,
Flavio is the best player on Vibo Valencia, by the way.
No, and he has all year long. So it's just so frustrating of, like, why do we continue to push this narrative? Why, like we keep trying to, and I've been saying this for so long in volleyball, we keep trying to cater to our third level adopters and still, instead of catering to our first level adopters. The way that volleyball media has been for so long, and like from the way the camera's posted to how media is run, is really to, let's try to attack the masses who don't give a shit about the sport and completely forego our baseline fans.
That's
like,
right.
The one thing I disagreed with Finn Taylor when he did that interview with the Sandcast podcast is that he was saying, like, volleyball fans are always going to love volleyball. No, volleyball fans don't love volleyball.
No, volleyball fans are terrible at liking volleyball
because they're so apathetic because they've never been catered to. They've never had anything to be like, here's why you like volleyball. You're like, so many volleyball players are almost scared to say that they are are volleyball players because there's just no context for it. No one knows it is. It comes around every 4 years, and you've got like TikToks going off being like, man, men's volleyball is the manliest sport there is. Like if you know TikTok, you know what it was.
Yeah.
And like everyone's seen that clip, and no one inside of volleyball does anything about it.
It's ridiculous. I didn't think there was so much great volleyball that happened this weekend. I was annoyed that we had no choice but to go on this very rant again. It's pretty much like a weekly segment at this point. But you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Take a Rok Mozic, put him on a pedestal and spotlight this man when he rips an ace.
Years old.
When he rips an ace to win a match 23-21 in the fifth, and he has that stat line. Spotlight that. Spotlight the 30-second clip of one of the great cross-court shots I've ever seen in my life from Paula Egona. And she is the best player in the world, and everyone actually knows who she is. Why don't you take that? Why don't you even know that play happened? It's unbelievable to me.
Why isn't this being like I watch the Raptors games and every 3-point shot is broken down in 5G. We can't even get a slow-mo replay.
It's so sad. So sad. Well, we're doing what we can on this show. There are a couple other things in Italy men's we've got to hit before we move on. Perugia 3-0 Ravenna. That was not close. Perugia played the bench. Nobody cares. Monza, pretty good bounce back performance. They got Jurgi Grozer back. That is huge. They were in a free fall in the standings. They have stopped that. They beat Cisterna. Now they're back into 6th, which is helpful. Also, but the bigger story in that match was Donovan Javoronic, another name that deserves much more press than he's getting. He's like 23 at most. Great size, about 204 from the Czech Republic. He had 50 attacking attempts against Cisterna in 4 sets.
Huge.
50 attempts. 22 for 50 with only 2 errors. That's 40% efficiency. That's really, really good on that set load.
On 50 attempts, that's massive.
It's amazing. Plus an ace in the block, and his team won. So like that is another guy that we should be talking about much, much more is Donovan Javoronic of the Czech Republic. And but now that Monza has Grozer back, they can put Vlad Daviskiba back on the left. They've got actually 3 very good middles. So they are now in a position to get back to doing a little bit of what they were doing before Grozer got injured. So we'll see how high they can go.
Yeah. And on the other side of the ball with Cisterna, I mean, they're really just looking for any firepower that isn't Stephen Marr. Right? And Marr had a great day. He went 14 for 28, 50% swing efficiency, had 2 blocks, no aces. He's passing all of the balls, but he's really the only thing that Cisterna has going. They have Peter Durlick, who also had a pretty good game, actually 16 for 30 with a few more errors, but they're just really missing. They've got a lot of holes, this Cisterna team, and they started out really strong. And I was almost thinking early in the season that they might be competing for a playoff spot, but as I said earlier, I think that is now gone, and that's Verona's to take.
I agree. Yeah,
I think it's Verona's not even to take. I think it's Verona's to lose.
I also think it's Verona's to lose. Cisterna, they've been hit by a lot of injuries. At least if you're Canadian like Everett, it's nice to see Stephen Marr being the workhorse instead of being on the bench. So,
dude, I've been watching. No lie, I've been watching Stephen Marr be a workhorse for a decade now. So like this is another day in the office. He might as well be playing for the Aurora Storm right now.
I think Marr's awesome. I'm happy to see that he's at least starting consistently. Tommaso Rinaldi, not very good in this one. Yeah. I don't have that much to say about Cisterna. They haven't really been on my radar to that much of a degree this year. I don't expect them to make the playoffs, but I don't think they're going to get relegated either. So I think that's kind of all we have to say about Italy, right? You want to move on to Champions League?
All we have to say. 50 minutes of content just about Italy. But hey, it's the best league of the world, and then a lot of stuff went down this past week.
Yes, it did.
You got to follow it.
All right, so moving on to Champions League, I want to hit the women first because there were only a couple notable things that happened in Women's Champions League last week. One was Vakifbank beating Monza 3-1. That was a pretty convincing performance from Vakifbank. You can see them there in Pool B. They have already won that pool, as has Rzeszów, the best team in Poland in Pool A. They've won that pool as well, so there's really not that much going on there. The drama comes here on this screen. So Pool D is actually very competitive. Fenerbahce and Dinamo Kazan have really gone at each other in this pool already, and I think they still have to play again. But Pool C is where the drama was this past week. So I think last week on the show we talked about Novara versus THY. being the super match of the week last week. It was featured on Wednesday. Novara had just been coming out of a big COVID outbreak. They only had 9 players make the trip to Istanbul. No Abrar Karakurt, which was a shame. They were missing the starting libero. They're missing one of their middles, and no Britt Herbots as well, which is funny because I hosted the European volleyball show for the CEV right before the match, and like literally in the last minute, like an hour before the show was supposed to start, my colleague from the CEV texted me and was like, "Hey, I know you were planning on doing the show by yourself. We have a guest for you last minute. I need you to change up everything for the show to make it work and accommodate this guest." I'm like, "Oh, you can't tell me last minute like this. Who's the guest?" I'm like, "It's Britt Herbots." I'm like, wait, what? A player from the team that's playing in the match is joining the show like 30 minutes before first serve. So that was weird.
It's Britt Herbots.
Yeah,
I'd love to talk to Britt Herbots.
Awesome. Yeah, so I had a great time talking to her. It was totally worth it. Yeah, she was sitting in her apartment in Italy watching her team play a match in Turkey. Now, where the drama comes in is before that match, Novara was undefeated in the pool. They were perfect at 4-0 and 12-0 in sets. And this is one of the pools that we were looking at coming into Champions League Women that had 3 legitimate contenders in the pool. And there are not very many pools like that. Honestly, might be the only one. So the fact that Novara was undefeated at that point was really amazing. And I actually got a text from the same CEV guy while I had Britt Herbots on the show that Dynamo Moscow had forfeited their match against Liberec from the Czech Republic last week, and that Liberec was going to take that win by default 3-0, and that because of that, Moscow would then have been 3-2, and Novara at 4-0 with perfect set ratio would have won the pool mathematically, and Novara knew that to be true. They got the news that Dynamo had to forfeit that match to Liberec, and that they had won the pool mathematically. So even though they went to THY with only 9 players in Istanbul and lost in 4, they were told that they had won the pool until the Dynamo versus Liberec match was unforfeited and was then rescheduled to be played this week on this Sunday. So this Sunday, the 13th, now Dynamo is playing. That match against Liberec has been rescheduled, and that changes everything about this pool because Novara went to Istanbul with only 9 players and lost. But you better believe they would have handled that match a little bit differently if they didn't know for a fact that they had already won the pool. If that news hadn't gotten to them, I guarantee you that match goes differently. So to forfeit a match and then unforfeit it, is unforgivable. And I to some degree, I represent the CEV, so I could never say this on the European Volleyball Show, but I will say it here. You can't do that. And Novara agrees. They Novara and then the Lega Volley Femminile on behalf of Novara have sent a very angry letter to the CEV about this situation because well, dude, can you blame them? Come on.
I can't blame them at all. But let's
everything.
Let's be honest. This is a fuck up of like F1 proportions. Okay, we're gonna run like the next cars through. We're gonna let Max just take the championship. Because who does that? Who unforfeits a game? Like that's absolutely ridiculous. And let's be honest here. If the FIVB is 3 boomers in a trench coat, then the CEV is 3 Gen Xers in a trench coat. A little bit better, a little bit more with it, but still completely out of touch and out of base with what's going on in reality.
Yeah, they're a lot better digitally, a lot better with media. But in terms of tournament structure, they've got a ways to go on the Champions League format because even Giovanni Gudetti of Vakifbank was really laying into the Champions League structure. He's like, why does my club have to spend all this money to go to Finland to play some bad
for an hour?
Right, to play for an hour and then fly all the way back. And why does that Finnish team have to spend all the money to get smoked in 6 matches in the 4th round and go home? And he's right. You can't argue with him about that. I agree with him that the Champions League would be better if there were more qualification rounds and less teams in the 4th round here. Well, you've also got to rename it completely. Why are we calling this the 4th round? It's absurd. I know you've complained about that before. But so the structure of Champions League needs a bit of reevaluation. I agree with that. But most importantly, you cannot unforfeit a match. the CEV, the organization, cannot deem a match to be forfeit, cannot log that match in all official platforms as being forfeited, and then undo that. That is not acceptable. So I understand the Italian Federation's complaint about this, because not only does it hurt Novara, it actually also hurts Monza. So if you look at this list, the ranking of the second place teams, Monza has to contend with Dinamo Moscow right underneath them as far as teams that have a chance at making it out of their pool as a second place team. And Monza is going to win their last game. They're going to go 4-2 with probably 12 points. But Dinamo Moscow, if they go 3-2 with 7 points, they're done. This hurts both Monza and Novara, kind of backhanded for Monza. So I understand why the Italian Federation is complaining to the CEV about this. You cannot unforfeit a match.
No, you can't. And I mean, let's be honest. All the Champions League is once again, a bunch of white guys sat in an office, went like, what does soccer do? They have a Champions League? Okay, we have a Champions League. What's the format? Okay, that's the format. We have the format. Now in soccer it works because you've got a multi-billion-dollar TV deal kind of across the world, and you've got countries from everywhere. Like, we watch Champions League here in North America, completely fine. It's what helped the big revolution that's turned soccer around. Why Canadian soccer is so good and beating your guys' asses 2-0 last week.
Who cares?
Right? I do. And a lot of people do in Canada. But there's a reason that the Champions League soccer works, because it's a global phenomenon. Their own countries don't care about Champions League, right? Champions League can't be the same the way as soccer, because it just doesn't hold the same market value that it does. So it leads to this terrible format. I mean, and let's be honest, the fact that there's 5 pools, so the 5 winners and then the next 3, it's all horseshit. It's just really all horseshit. So let's be original for once, volleyball. Let's go out, let's create a system and a structure that works for our sport, that works for the confines within which we work. It's not just being like, what does soccer do? Let me put my monocle up here and take a look. From afar. I'm not actually going to go in and check things out.
No,
I'm
certainly not going
to
certainly not going to put boots on the ground and understand what the competitions are actually like. Yeah, the format of Champions League, just not only just to roast the way it is, but to give a suggestion for what I think it should be, closer to what it was last year in the COVID year, because right now this format is extremely wasteful. For every team in the 4th round to play 6 matches and 3 of them away in various different countries, like Zaksa right now on the men's side, which we'll talk about in a minute, is on the way to Siberia for a second time. That is incredibly wasteful. Do a little bit more like what you did last year during the COVID year, when you get all 4 teams in the pool in the same place for a weekend, and you play whatever it was, I think 2 matches total, or however, condense it more. Pack the matches in more. It will save all the clubs money. It will save broadcasting resources in a big way, and it will put the spotlight more on the competition if you can get them all in the same couple days. They're doing that in the middle of the weeks this time. They can do better with in terms of the way it's scheduled, but also the whole 5 pools of 4 thing. Terrible mathematically. Anybody who knows anything about tournament format, you don't do anything with odd numbers ever. This should clearly be a 16-team competition. Clearly. With 8 teams making it out. No messing around with this second, top 3 of the 5 second place teams crap. That makes no sense. So much better could be done with this. And this is because I love the Champions League. It is the best club competition.
One of the best competitions we have in all of it.
It's awesome. The matches are absolutely electric. I love watching Champions League. I can't get enough of Champions League volleyball. Just today, we had Marseille beating Ziraat Bankasa in 5. That was their first set they've even won the entire competition. They shook up everything on the men's side, which is amazing. The matches are insane. I love watching Champions League every year. But there's so much better that you can do with this. Be less wasteful. Be more conscious of how you can spotlight the competition in great matches. Don't waste travel. Don't waste broadcasting resources, and make a tournament format make sense. Please.
Here's what I think it should be. You ever played in a beach league or an adult league where it's 3, you have weekly games and you have 3 teams per pool per pod, and you play 2 games, and if you win one, if you win your games, you move up. If you get second, you stay, and if you get third, you move down. Why don't we take Champions League, CEV Cup, Challenge Cup, all put it together, and you rank all of the teams that qualify 1 through 60, if you want, and let them play off in these weekly games so that you always have like those top tier teams are always playing other top tier teams, and you don't have these lower level teams playing off each other. Then you're just going to promote more games. You're going to promote more like equal competition between the other countries. Like I want to see more matches. Like though I sometimes like the CEV Cup better than the Champions League because let's be honest, 75% of Champions League suck. Right, 75% of the matches in Champions League are just absolute blowouts. Where one team isn't playing their guys, and the other team is just happy to be there. Right. So
thanks for participating.
Thanks for participating. Absolutely right. So let's change it up so that there's some meaningful matches. Because let's be honest, there's only a handful of teams that can win it every year. Let's have those teams beat each other up throughout the season. I think that's way more exciting than what we have than what we have now. You know, I love watching like that Ziraat Bankasi versus Masek. Those are the matches I love. Like Turkey versus Belgium. Like let's get into it, right? Like let's let Poland and Italy and Russia compete on one side, and then let's let all the others duke it out on the other side. Like that's like way more meaningful volleyball than anything else we have.
Yeah, and you can set that up in a way that the teams in like the second tier, whatever, can easily play their way up to Champions League caliber, and then the teams that are like the best team in a bad volleyball country that get crushed in Champions League, move them down to CEV Cup after they lose in Champions League. Like don't give them a participation trophy for Champions League.
Destroy all
of
those
one
things.
thing.
Destroy all of it, and then by the end of it, you would have like if you finish like from 1st to 8th, you're in the tier 1 championship. You finish from 9th to whatever, like 32nd. It's the CEV Cup, and then the rest of them the Challenge Cup. Let's do it that way. Right, you know what, Rob? We're just solving all of volleyball's problems tonight. That's what we're doing.
Hey, and what's nice is that we're not only
Taylor, call us up. Let's go.
Yeah, seriously, we're not just roasting the powers that be. We are coming up with solutions for you. They're yours. Again, like we said a couple shows ago, we want to be part of the solution here. Everett and I are both more than happy to give as many ideas as you guys can possibly want because everything that we say on this show is better than anything in mainstream volleyball.
What do you have to lose? Like statistically, we're the worst sport on the planet. Like that's not a joke. I wish it was, but like no one watches volleyball, so let's shake it up somehow.
Even though it's so awesome, and a competition like Champions League is just the best, and it can be formatted in a way that capitalizes on that. So, speaking of Champions League, let's move on to the men a little bit because men's is what's happening this week. Some very interesting results, even from just today. Pool A, nothing noteworthy at all. JW has won that pool already. There's nothing really to go over there. Pool B, like Everett talked about, Ziraat Bankasa losing to Masaic today changes kind of everything, not only in that pool, but in Champions League, because Ziraat Bankasa was in a position here, the bottom of the screen, amongst the second place teams to really be in a great position to make it out. All they had to do is beat Masaic, like the 4th place team in the pool. But they lose. And now they like 3-2, 10 points is not a good spot to be in, even if you win your last game and they have to go play Dynamo Moscow again. That's not going to go well. So now these couple pools are where it gets very interesting as well. We'll tie all this together in just a minute. So this week you got Zaksa Kezherzhin Kozle is on their way to Siberia now because earlier today they went to Slovenia and they beat Maribor easily. So they beat them in 3. And they're flying to Siberia where they've already played and beaten Novosibirsk, but they're doing it again because their last match got canceled due to a Zaksa COVID outbreak. However, tomorrow you have Lube traveling to Novosibirsk. They're already there. That match is tomorrow, ludicrously early in the morning. I was going to have to commentate it. It was going to be at 6 a.m. my time. So it's tomorrow morning, Wednesday, February 8th at 7 a.m. Eastern time.
7 a.m. Eastern. I'll do it. See if you need someone. Like let me jump on.
Fortunately, our boy Louis Lett, who has recently moved to Australia, is in a much
real quick shout out to Louis Lett because now he's working for the Australian Beach Volleyball Federation. So kind of sad because he's not going to be commentating anymore. I'm assuming, right?
No, he's commentating tomorrow. He's commentating tomorrow because it's a favorable time zone for him. Yeah,
more so beach. Right? Like I don't think he's going to be the voice of beach volleyball. So that being said, side note, volleyball world, hi. Would love to jump in there. I'm sure Louis would give me a reference.
He would.
But yeah, big shout out to Louis Lett. One of the gems of
Louis the man
of the volleyball world in general. A dude who just loves volleyball, to his core, and it exudes in the stuff that he does. So Louis, congratulations. But back to what we were talking about.
Right. So you got Lube versus Novosibirsk tomorrow, super early in the morning if you're in the Western Hemisphere. That'll be really good. Remember last time those two teams played, I think it was like the first match of the tournament. Lube hosted Novosibirsk, absolutely stomped on them, and they had like something on the order of 15 aces. It was kind of embarrassing. But like we saw when Novosibirsk hosted Zaxa the last time, that they played them really tight, and even though Zaxa won in 4, Lokomotiv looked much better. Also, Lokomotiv beat Dynamo Moscow in domestic competition, I think, last week. So that team is good, and that match tomorrow will be good if you want to wake up early for it. I will not be up at 6 a.m. And then Pool D is the one I really want to talk about because we were talking about it last week after ZSP had that, or 2 weeks ago, after ZSP had that unbelievable head scratcher when they hosted Novi Sad and played Grebennikov at Libero and got swept. ZSP is back to full strength. Poletayev and Kliuka have both been playing full minutes, so that's awesome. And now it shapes up really nicely for this showdown. So Berlin today went to Benfica in Portugal and beat them easily. It sets up great for this showdown when Berlin will travel to St. Petersburg in about 2 weeks and play them 2 matches in a row. Actually, that might be next week. I think it's next week. I think it's next Wednesday and Thursday. So those matches will be electric. I'm very much looking forward to those because as we look at the list of the second place teams, Everett, I think I asked you last week of the 4 teams here that are in second right now that really have a chance because Friedrichshafen does not. Which 3 do you think are going to make it out? And last week I thought that ZSP would be the one on the outside looking in, and I don't quite think that way anymore. I think they have a better chance, especially after Ziarbankasa lost.
Yeah, I mean the ZSP / Berlin pool. I'm now looking at Berlin as being that second place team because I mean, hey, Berlin just is coming off a loss to Friedrichshafen in the DVB Cup.
Year.
Yeah, they're first of the year, and let's be honest, Friedrichshafen is not good this year. Right. So, and I mean, Friedrichshafen, like they had a game, like Patch put up numbers as well too, but I just don't think that Berlin is at ZSP's level, especially if everyone's going to be getting it back. But yeah, going back to that Zirot Bankasi loss, right now they've played 5 matches, so I think they only have 1 more left. Whereas
and it's against Dynamo Moscow,
and it's against Dynamo Moscow, so that's probably going to be their loss. It changes everything for them. So they're going to be going to 3-3, and I don't know if that's going to be enough because you're fighting with Zaxa, Trentino, and ZSP / Berlin. And I mean, as Berlin's not going to be able to run with ZSP, but they're not going to lose to Novi Sad or Benfica, right? So like that loss today. And I mean, I just watched because I got home just as the match was finishing and kind of watched that 5th set. And after the match,
it was a fun match.
Oh, it was a great match. I mean, for some reason, like I'm a huge Yolan Cox fan. The right side for Masic, the lefty. Like I've seen him go off. Like I think his peak form was when he was paired up with Jay Blankino a few seasons ago.
Of course, you bring it back to Canada.
Absolutely, I had to somehow. But I love like those matchups, like those Turkey versus Belgium versus France versus like Germany. Like I love that. Like let's have more of that. Let's let the big dogs fight, and let's let those guys go at it too. But yeah, I just don't see how Zirot Bankasi is going to be able to slot themselves in with one of those 3 teams.
They would have no choice. They would have to beat Dynamo Moscow head to head, and I just don't see that happening.
No.
So Zaxa, though, they do not have all that easy of a path because let's say they go to Novosibirsk, Siberia, obviously not an easy trip to make. They play that on Saturday. Let's say they lose. Let's say they get upset. Then they're 3-2. Then where's their last match? It's at Lube Civitanova. I'm not going to put this on the reigning champions, but it is not impossible for Zaxa to lose their 2 remaining matches because they have by far the hardest schedule remaining. They have to play Novosibirsk and Lube both on the road, and they have to win one of those games to have a chance to advance. It's not impossible that they might get they could get upset in both of those games, and losing to Lube probably wouldn't even be an upset. They could miss out on the quarterfinals because of that, and that would be insane.
Yeah. But hey, I mean, that's the Champions League. That's the way it is, especially with this weird random format that we have of 5 pools of 4 teams. Like it's just you get 24, you make it 16 or 32. Like just there's standard numbers for this. Like once again, volleyball. Let's just get it together, okay?
Yeah, figure it out. So a couple things just to preview Champions League this week, because this is mostly a men's week of Champions League. There's actually some women's going on as they have some matches to catch up on. So I mentioned Lube at Novosibirsk tomorrow, super early in the morning if you're in the Western Hemisphere. Warsaw at Dynamo Moscow is tomorrow. That doesn't really matter as much now because Warsawa's eliminated themselves by choking in their first 3 matches, but they could play spoiler, I suppose. Berlin plays 2 matches in back-to-back days. They actually play Novi Sad tomorrow, which is rare and interesting travel-wise, but I still expect them to win. Then a big one, an absolute banger. On Thursday, Trentino versus Perugia, Chapter 5. They have already played 4 times this year. They are dead split at 2-2, and they play again in Champions League on Thursday. That will be a banger. That is at 1:30 p.m. Eastern on Thursday. So set an alarm for that one for sure.
That should be a good one to watch. Maybe if you're on the Discord, maybe we should put together a voice chat for that one. That might be worth it.
It might be worth it. Then you've got a rare Saturday match this coming Saturday, the 12th, Zaksa at Novosibirsk. So that'll be really good too. That's noon Eastern time. So a lot of good Champions League stuff. This time next week, and the nice thing is that next week, next Thursday Thursday the 17th are the last matches of Champions League in the 4th round. So we will have a ton to we'll have a ton to talk about on next week's show about Champions League. But I agree that this is drawn out for too long. I think they should do it like they did last year. Get all 4 teams into the same place for 3 days, have them each play 3 matches against each other. You only have to do that block twice to finish out the entire pool, and then do only 4 pools instead of 5. That would be an easy fix, but a better fix, I think, would be what Everett suggested about just grouping all CV competition into one long list and having them play each other throughout the season, move up and down, and then separate them out into playoffs as you go. I like that format a lot. It's a good idea.
Yeah. I mean, hey, let's change it up, volleyball. Let's try something different. We've been doing this for how long, and it's mediocre at best. Like, hey, let's switch it up. All right. Moving forward, just a few notes as we wrap up the show. One of the best performances we've seen from an American all year, Kyle Russell, with 8 aces in a row in Korea, just absolutely going off this past weekend, and just teeing off 8 aces in a row. That's Angel Dennis territory right there.
That's a great callback name. Yeah, Kyle Russell. I don't care if it's in Korea. Like, clearly their league is set up where they pay one absolute superstar to come in and take like 60 swings a game, but that's brutal. Like, ask Gavin Schmidt. He clearly knows he did that. But no matter where you are, 8 aces in a row is disgusting. Especially, go watch the video, because there's like a 4-minute video that just cut all 8 aces together, because he was doing it in every possible way. Yeah, both sidelines, both seams, lighting slicing up all 3 passers, slicing and dicing, like tagging the hook, like the sideline into position 1. Like, he was doing it every possible way. And to be that aggressive and to even serve 8 of those balls in bounds in a row in one run is nuts. But 8 aces is otherworldly. So got to check that out. And maybe that's what Kyle Russell needs to get his foot in the door a little bit more in terms of national team playing time.
Do you, Rob, let me ask you the question, since I'm the Canadian, you're the American. Do you think that Kyle Russell should be in consideration for that opposite spot on the national team? Because let's be honest, like, Patch omitted from the Olympic roster altogether. Matt Anderson, we all know, would prefer to play on the left side. You have holes up on the left side right now. Like, who knows what Aaron Russell's going to look like come summertime, since he's been sitting on the bench in Piacenza. Haven't seen him since before his injury. Like, I think right now DeFalco's the best left side that the USA has. He's been lighting up. He's been lighting up. And of course, according to our Polish guys, it's looked like, DeFalco is in the conversation for MVP of the Plus Liga, right? So why not have DeFalco and Anderson throwing like the duo of Kyle Russell and Kyle Ensing on the right side? You've got one big banger, big body, big banger who's going to throw up a big block, who's going to rip service aces. And I'd be like, hey, let's be honest here. Korea is a lesser league, but let's be honest, it's known for its ball control. It's known for its passing, right? So if you're going to go off against what's arguably some of the best serve receivers in the world, like you're it's not like you're going OT on guys like Gavin Schmidt was, but like, and that's just straight up what he does. Like Namuri Keita, the Cameroonian kid who's in Korea and lining things up, like that's aces. Like that's not easy to do, right? And you're doing it in Korea. I think that's like even a notch more. So why not throw in Kyle Russell with, you got Anderson and DeFalco on the left side? Like, I don't know. I think that's kind of nasty.
So I know for a fact that Matt Anderson would prefer to play opposite. However, it could very well serve the team better because of the national team's apparent incoming weaknesses at outside hitter to put a stock rising TJ DeFalco next to an all-time great Matt Anderson on the left. You have Aaron Russell, who we've seen his peak before, but we have no idea if he's going to be able to get back there. And then you have somebody as physical as a Kyle Russell as an option on the right, who's not going to be quite as low at his lows as maybe a Ben Patch when he's having a bad hand contacting day, which is most of the days. And then you've got a Kyle Ensing to be kind of the backup when things don't go so well. I don't hate that at all. Kyle Russell has hung around the national team the last couple of years. Kyle, no relation to Aaron Russell, by the way. I think Kyle Russell deserves a lot more of a look than he's getting, and I respect the career move to go to Korea because that is extremely physically demanding, but pays a lot of money. And yeah, 8 aces in a row is 8 aces in a row. It's not easy to do that. That's quite the achievement. So I totally think he deserves a spot. Opposite is a huge question mark for us, whether Anderson plays there this year or not, because a couple years from now, probably after Paris, you've got to think that he's gone. So there's no reason not to give a kid like a Kyle Russell more of a look. I totally agree. And unfortunately as well, if we're going to talk about Korea, that was a great piece of news that came out of Korea. There was another piece of news that came out of Korea this week that was not good at all. So Kim In-hyuk, who was a 26-year-old outside hitter that had spent some time on the national team and with a handful of the good clubs in the Korean V-League, was found dead in his home at age 26 earlier in the week. That is terrible news. And part of what was written in the news article was that in the past, he had complained about getting legitimately cyberbullied online by fans relating to his play on the court. And I didn't read a cause of death. I don't think that's been established, but I would really like to think that those two things aren't related. But the sad matter might be that they are. And if that's the case, first of all, any thoughts that we can give to him and his family, for sure. Like it's a horrible piece of news to read. But guys, if you're a sports fan, volleyball or not, and you're threatening or cyberbullying athletes based on their on-court performance, you've got to get a grip on reality. These athletes are people too. And the more Everett and I have gotten to interact with some of these people and get to know some of them, the more we appreciate that and what they go through on a personal level to be professional athletes. You should never, ever behave like that directed at an athlete because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah. And it's first of all, it's terrible. He played for the Samsung Blue Fangs, the same team as Kyle Russell, the athlete that we were just talking about. And I mean, it just brings back that larger conversation that we talked about kind of when we first started the show about the bullying that we've, all of the bullying reports that we've seen coming out of Korea, and the fact that we've seen athletes kicked off the national team, and not only just athletes, but star athletes with the two twin sisters. And I guess that it's something that really affects Korean culture because, we're seeing the repercussions of it. So, it's kind of crazy because when we were talking about it at first I was like, oh, that's a little extreme. But now it kind of, it lends credence to why that reaction was so drastic, because
there's a pattern there, unfortunately.
Yeah, there is that pattern, and it's continuing here. So thoughts and prayers to, his family and friends and the rest of the Blue Fangs, Samsung Blue Fang squad. And yeah, it's a sad day for all the volleyball world.
Sad piece of news. We're sorry we had to bring that up, but we totally had to if we're going to talk about Korea. We had to address that.
And Samsung altogether,
Right. And so I think last but not least for the show this week, because we are incredibly long over our usual time. If you want to,
it's been good.
It's been awesome. There's so much. So there's great volleyball going on all weekend, like we talked about. There's even a little bit of Champions League. There are some bangers in Italy. There's Modena versus Perugia, where you're going to see Irvin Ingapet put his undefeated streak against Perugia on the line.
We didn't even talk 16-0, 16-0, and we didn't even get to that. That's how crazy this week has been.
In addition to that, the VLA will also be in action this weekend. So we're playing Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday morning in Connecticut. The East Coast division of VLA Tier 1 is kicking off. The Northeast Force have joined VLA Tier 1. They were finally able to announce that. So a lot more VLA info coming up this weekend. If you want to hear more about it in a show like this, we're going to do an episode of Around the VLA on Thursday evening with the Northeast Force's founder, team rep guy. His name is Garrett Minyard. Great dude. So I'm excited to talk to him on Thursday. If you want to hear more VLA, tune into that on the VLA YouTube channel. Just another piece of crazy volleyball to add to this already crazy sports weekend. Not to mention a certain football game being played in Southern California on Sunday.
Meh. No, I'll definitely still watch it. Let's be honest.
Who do you got?
And,
Rams
and not to mention the Olympics going on right now.
That's true.
Canada beat U.S. in hockey last night.
I watched that. That was fun to watch.
To be perfectly honest, I think especially the first half of the game that USA outplayed us. We were lucky with our power play opportunities. And I won't lie, and it may be blasphemous to say this as a Canadian, but I felt that the penalty shot call from Philippe Poulin that really put them ahead was questionable at best. I mean, there was a penalty there for sure. There was a slash, absolutely, but it didn't seem to impede her all of that much, and she still got a pretty good shot off. So I would have just called a penalty in that situation as a Canadian who played hockey for many years.
Okay.
And never once refereed. But
we need to get our girl Claire Hanna connected with you now that she was, commentating VNL, now working for TSN full time. We need to hire you as a multi-sport guy, eh?
Oh, buddy, my background goes way past volleyball. Volleyball is the last sport I started to play. So, hey, I once had an email when I applied for my first job in volleyball at Volleyball Canada. I guess it wouldn't be my first job because I worked at the volleyball store in Ottawa. A VSP. But when I applied for my job at Volleyball Canada, my email was soccer_guy.
Oh, that's awesome. Everyone loves a good, old fifth grade.
Good old soccer_guy39@hotmail.com. And the worst is if sometimes I'll message people from my iMessage on my computer, and that's what pops up. And
awesome.
It's just,
that's awesome.
All right. Well, with that note, is there anything else did we miss? Anything else we want to talk about?
Last but not least, Rams or Bengals? I've got Bengals. I think Joe Burrow's the truth.
Oh, I think he is the truth as well. But I think that systematically and structurally, organizationally, the Rams have a lot more going for them, and they're playing at home.
Great point. So I'm excited to watch that. A lot of volleyball sandwich this weekend before the Super Bowl goes down. So enjoy it this week, ladies and gentlemen. Join the Discord if you haven't already, and we will see you next Tuesday. Peace.
Peace, guys. Have a great week.